Every day, airlines sell more tickets than there are seats on the plane. Not by accident. On purpose. They know that when the flight fills up, someone is going to show up with a valid ticket, and there won't be a seat for them. And yet, they keep doing it. Imagine showing up to the airport, boarding pass in hand, seat selected, everything confirmed, and then hearing your name called at the gate, only to be told the flight is full and you can't get on. You didn't do anything wrong. You paid. You checked in. You showed up on time. And still, you're the one left behind. How does that even happen? To understand this, you have to go back to how airlines actually make money. Running an airline is one of the most expensive businesses in the world. Planes cost tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. Fuel is expensive. Maintenance is constant. Staffing is massive. And once a plane takes off, any empty seat is money that can never be recovered. If a plane has 180 seats and only 170 people show up, those 10 empty seats are lost revenue forever. The plane is already flying. The cost is already paid. There's no way to go back and sell those seats once the doors close. And here's the key detail most people don't realize. A certain number of passengers don't show up for flights. Every time. It happens constantly. People miss connections. Plans change. People cancel last minute or just don't show up at all. Airlines track this behavior very closely, and over time, they've built extremely accurate models to predict how many passengers won't show up for any given flight. Which leads to a strange conclusion. If you sell exactly 180 tickets for a 180-seat plane, you are almost guaranteed to have empty seats. So airlines do something that sounds insane at first. They oversell the flight. They might sell 185 tickets for a 180-seat plane, knowing that statistically, about 5 people won't show up. And most of the time, they're right. Everyone who shows up gets a seat, and the plane leaves full. Maximum efficiency. Maximum revenue. But sometimes, they're wrong. Sometimes everyone shows up. And that's when things get messy. Now the airline has more passengers than seats, and someone has to be left behind. That's called being bumped, and it's where overbooking turns from a smart business strategy into a very public problem. Here's where it gets interesting. Airlines don't want to force people off flights if they can avoid it. So the first thing they do is ask for volunteers. You've probably heard this before over the airport speakers. We are looking for volunteers willing to take a later flight in exchange for compensation, and that compensation can get pretty high. Airlines will offer vouchers, cash, hotel stays, sometimes even hundreds or thousands of dollars. Because even though overbooking makes them money most of the time, when it goes wrong, it can cost them a lot more to fix the problem. Wait, really? They'll pay you not to take the flight you already paid for? Yes. And sometimes, people take the deal. Especially if they're not in a rush. If the airline offers enough money, it becomes a win for the passenger and a solution for the airline. Not always. Sometimes, no one volunteers. And that's when the airline has to make a decision. They choose who gets bumped. And this is where things can go very wrong. In April 2017, a passenger named Dr. David Dow was forcibly removed from a United Airlines flight after refusing to give up his seat. The flight was overbooked, and United needed seats for airline crew. When no one volunteered, the airline selected passengers to be removed. Dow refused, and security officers physically dragged him off the plane. The incident was filmed by other passengers and quickly went viral. Within hours, the video was everywhere. News outlets, social media, television. The public reaction was immediate and intense. United Airlines faced massive backlash, their stock price dropped, and the company had to issue multiple public apologies. It became one of the most famous airline controversies in modern history. And it all started with overbooking. This was a turning point. After the incident, airlines began changing how they handled overbooking situations. They increased compensation limits, changed policies to reduce the chances of forced removals, and gave gate agents more flexibility to offer higher payments to volunteers. Because the cost of a bad headline turned out to be far higher than the cost of overbooking mistakes. But here's the thing. They didn't stop overbooking. Because from a business perspective, it still works. Most of the time, overbooking allows airlines to fill planes more efficiently, reduce losses from empty seats, and keep ticket prices lower overall. If airlines didn't overbook, they would have to raise prices to make up for the lost revenue from no-show passengers. So in a strange way, overbooking is one of the reasons flights are as cheap as they are. That's the irony. The system that can occasionally leave you stranded at the gate is also part of what makes air travel affordable. And here's another detail that makes people pause. You're not equally likely to get bumped. Airlines use algorithms to decide who is most likely to be selected. Factors can include when you checked in, what kind of ticket you bought, your frequent flyer status, and even your travel history. So even in a chaotic situation, there's a system quietly deciding who stays and who goes. It's not random. Which makes it feel even stranger. Because the entire system is built on probabilities, predictions, data. Airlines are making calculated bets on human behavior. Most of the time, those bets pay off. But when they don't, the consequences are very visible. A full plane. Too many passengers. Someone loses. And the reason this story matters is because it shows how modern businesses operate. Airlines aren't just selling tickets. They're managing probabilities. They're optimizing systems. They're making decisions based on data, not certainty. And sometimes, that means the system works perfectly. And sometimes, it doesn't. But either way, it's not an accident. It's designed. So the next time you're sitting at the gate and you hear an announcement asking for volunteers to take a later flight, just remember, that situation didn't happen because something went wrong. It happened because everything went exactly according to plan. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, subscribe to Forgotten Law Company. We upload new stories every week, and trust me, it only gets stranger from here.